Please be seated. As we get ready for Thanksgiving, in only a couple weeks, we think about many things that we can be thankful for. And there's the obvious things. We're thankful for our families. We're thankful for good health. We're thankful for people being there for us. Sometimes we have to be thankful about strange things. Things that at the time don't seem so great. They seem oftentimes terrible. One very great example was when my nephew died and had his accident with his brother. Through circumstances through that, I was able to become reacquainted with my wife. And many other things throughout the years, things that start out not so good. Something as simple as a truck being late made it so that good would come from it. Now, people have a name for this. When I first mentioned this to some other people who like to be a part of the psychological community, they said, oh, you're reframing your situation. You're reframing. You're taking what once seemed bad and you're putting it into a new frame of God's glory and your thankfulness. You're reframing. My response was, no, God reframed it. I didn't reframe it. He changed what was originally seemed to be a bad thing and made it a good thing. I'll keep the term reframing, but the person who did it is going to be different. It wasn't me just trying to make good of a bad situation. It was God making good out of a seemingly bad situation. Here we are in Matthew chapter 16. And there's a little reframing going on. It's actually more than that. The disciples have to change their whole idea of how the world works because of what Jesus tells them here. Because up to this point, Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And to them that meant, you are the warrior, you are the son of David, you are the king, you are going to slay all these Romans, and you're going to make way so that Israel will be in control. But Jesus had something much bigger in mind. Something much bigger in mind. And so when Jesus said to them, it changed. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples. It doesn't say he did it all at once. You know, this was their training over several years. So he might have introduced one idea at a time so that they could start to grasp it. He must go to Jerusalem. Oh, they're like, oh yeah, of course we got to go to Jerusalem. It's where you go for the feast. Okay, we got that. That's okay. To suffer many things at the hands of the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law. Now that they didn't like so much. If you are the Messiah, if you are the Son of the living God, as Peter had just proclaimed, he passed his midterm, that means that you are going to come down and you're going to strike him down. Isn't that right? And Jesus says, I'm going to suffer. No, you're going to suffer. I thought this meant that we would prosper, not suffer. That you would prosper, not suffer. You'd come in, you'd take it over. Jerusalem would be cleansed of all unrighteousness, meaning the Romans and oftentimes Samaritans and anyone we didn't like, be wiped clean. But no, he's changing that perspective. He's not changing what was originally said was going to happen. Because everything that occurred in here was predicted in the Old Testament, was predicted in the prophecies. They just didn't quite get past that king like David. They didn't quite get past that. And then, he must be killed. They didn't like that part either. If he is to be the Messiah, if he's supposed to be the king who's going to lead us, how does that work if he's dead? How does that work? We understand the rule forever, that he's going to have a kingdom that will never end. We like that idea, but we don't like his dying. The thing is that he says on the third day he'll be raised to life. They like that part. They like that part. But you can't have the resurrection without dying on the cross. A death that had to occur in order to provide the way for all to come to him. Not that all will come to him, but that all that may come to him, they have that opportunity. And so he presented this. He said, this is what's going to happen to me. And these, again, it probably wasn't all at once. It wasn't as quick as this. But over time, he presented to them, we're going to go to Jerusalem. Yeah, we're going to go to Jerusalem. But I'm going to suffer. What? Okay. I'm going to go to Jerusalem, I'm going to suffer, and then I'm going to die. What? I'm going to go to Jerusalem, I'm going to suffer, then I'm going to die, and then I'm going to be raised again. I like that part. I like that part. But don't die first. And what Peter said, he came to him, he said, never, Lord, this shall never happen to you. Never, Lord, this shall never happen to you. Now, when I read this part, it takes me back to a Mad TV episode that happened many years ago. And I often do not agree with the theology of Mad TV. But this was one place where they got it right. They were doing a parody of the Terminator. And the Terminator traveled back in time to save Jesus as he was on his way to the cross, carrying his cross to Golgotha. And he'd kill a Roman soldier, and Jesus would bring him back to life. He'd kill another Roman soldier, and Jesus would bring him back to life. And he says, don't you get it? I have to die. Don't you get it? I am ordered to save you. I have to die, Jesus says. Whether it's Peter, whether it's the Terminator, or whether it's you and I saying, never, Lord, why'd you have to die? And some people change that to denial. Jesus, of course, wouldn't have died. He was the Son of God. He had to die for our sins.